Hey, what's up you guys, it's Fire, and today we're going to be taking a look at the difference between the prototype Aminus and the Blackcliff slasher. So let's get right into that. So right off the bat, we're going to take a look at the different stats of what both of them are. But let's go ahead and take a look at the base stats. So as you can see right here, on the right side, it is the prototype Aminus, and on the left side, it is the Blackcliff slasher. Now keep in mind, both of them are both refinement 1. I have not refined any of them at all. And as you can see right off the bat, the base attack for the Blackcliff slasher is 449 compared to the prototype, which is 497. They are both level 80. And for the main focus, probably for the Blackcliff slasher, is going to be the crit damage, and the prototype has the attack percentage. Now, what really separates these two are definitely going to be the side effects. This is going to play such a huge role, which is what really separates them. So we're going to be taking a look at how much a regular attack does for the Blackcliff slasher compared to the prototype, how much does my E scale off of the Blackcliff slasher as well as the prototype, and so on and so forth. So let's get right into it. Now the character I am going to be basing these stats off is from Beidou right here. One of the reasons why I did get this sword to test it out is because it was Beidou splash art sword, so I was like, yo, I need to test this out. Now before we even get into testing out the difference between these swords, let's go ahead and take a look at my artifacts. So these are my artifacts right now. I have 3 5-star artifacts and 2 berserker sets right here, and as you can see on the right here, these set bonuses. So this is my flower and my feather, my hourglass, my cup, and my headpiece. And for the base stuff, there it is. So crit rate 68% and crit damage for a total of 125. Now that plays a really huge difference between the two swords is because of my artifacts, but we'll get into that later on in the video. So let's go ahead and start testing out the basic attack between the two swords. I'm doing a basic attack of so 445 is when I crit, and whenever I don't crit, I do around 202 just for the first normal basic attack. Alright, and going on to the prototype, the first basic attack for a crit is 421. Okay, 241 basic attack. Next up on the list is going to be her E. How much does her E deal? So let's go ahead and go up to this ruined guard. 13,605 is how much I do with the prototype Aminus. Going on to the Blackcliff slasher, 14,707 attack damage. Now, I forgot to say in the video too, I have no constellation on her whatsoever. She is constellation 0. So with the prototype Aminus, it was around 13,000, and with the Blackcliff slasher, it was around 14k. Now, as I said before, the artifacts come in a huge play of why the Blackcliff is out damaging the prototype Aminus right now. So let's go ahead and take off all of her artifacts off. And now, since I have no artifacts on her, we are going to see the difference between the two swords now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the basic attacks. So now it is doing only 104 damage for the first basic attack. Alright, let's see when it crits. Does it ever crit? So 209 when it crits for the first basic attack. Alright, going to the prototype Aminus basic attack, I am going to be dealing around 140 damage. Alright, okay, 210 as a crit right there for the basic attack. Let's go ahead and take a look at the E now. So for the prototype, let's see how much damage she does. 3,188. So that time it did not crit at all. Let's see what happens when I crit with my E. Okay, I crit for 4,782. Jesus, that took long. For the prototype Aminus, I am not going to do that again. We're keeping that one. Alright, so now we are going to be testing out the Blackcliff Slasher's E here. 2,702. Okay, guys. I have been trying to get a crit on my E for so long now, and it is just not working out at all. Like, it is absolutely insane how much crit rate I have without my artifacts, and it is not even working out. I feel like I'm pulling the gotcha right now. Guys, look at how much I have for a crit rate. 5%, and this whole time I have not been getting it. Like, I think I might have to stop here. I literally don't know what to do. Alright, last one. Okay, I am done. I am done. I'm actually so surprised how I even got a crit on my prototype Aminus. Like, it's still 5%, and I seriously don't know how I got it. Like, I must have gotten super lucky, because on the Blackcliff Slasher, I was not hitting anything at all. And we're gonna take a look at the weapons once again. So, the effect here, the side effect, we're gonna be comparing side effects now. So for the prototype Aminus, whenever you get a on hit, normal, or charged attack, you have a 50% chance to deal 240 attack damage within a small AoE as well. But for the Blackcliff Slasher, the only time that the side effect is useful is when you get a kill with that weapon. Let's say if I was using Beidou and if I was using the Blackcliff Slasher, I would not get this side buff if I killed that enemy with Jean or Klee or someone else in my party, not Beidou. And if it wasn't Beidou, then I would not get this buff right here. So that is such a huge downside that I see on the Blackcliff Slasher here. I just put on all of my artifacts on, and we're going to be comparing the two side effects now. So these guys, these hilly churls, are going to be our little experiment. Alright, so as you can see there, I hit him and you saw that little AoE. That is the side effect for the prototype Aminus. And because of that, it makes this sword so useful on so many other characters, not just Beidou. But because the prototype Aminus does not buff your character in attack or anything, it just does like a little side effect, that means that her E does not get buffed. But with the Blackcliff Slasher, let's go ahead and test out that buff with my perfect counter on my E. So what I have to do is, in order to get max stacks, I would have to kill 3 enemies in a row or within the 30-second limit for the first one. Because if you read the description here, it says, after defeating an enemy, the attack is increased by 12% for 30 seconds. This effect has a maximum of 3 stacks, and the duration of each stack is independent of the other. So what that means is that if you kill the first mob, right, and then you get that 30-second cooldown, or that 30 seconds to be able to have that buff. But let's say you kill another mob at 15 seconds, the first stack does not refresh. So that means you only have 15 seconds on your first stack, but you still have 30 seconds on your second stack. And then if you kill a third mob at 30 seconds for the first one, you basically lose that stack. So that means you only have 2 stacks left. Okay, as you see, I just killed 3 people right there, and my attack is now 1,489 instead now. And at the beginning, I'll have a little screenshot. I wasn't paying attention, but that is how much it gives me for the attack. So if you remember correctly, the amount that I had for the my perfect counter from an E with no stacks was around 14,000 something, 14,100 something. But if I were to perfect counter here, wow, I did not get a crit. Unfreaking lucky right there. 17,441. That is with all 3 stacks. Okay, so after testing out the 2 weapons, let's just go ahead and summarize all of the numbers and the overview of each and every single weapon. So whenever I attacked with the Blackcliff Slasher, I did a basic attack of 202, and when I crit with it, it was 445. But with the prototype Aminus, I did 241 damage as a basic attack, and for the crit attack, whenever I crit with my basic attack, it only did 421. Now for Beto's skill, by the way, these are all perfect counters. This damage is 6,330 when I was not critting, but for the prototype I did 7,000. Now when I crit, I did 14k on this one, on the Blackcliff Slasher, and for the prototype I did 13,000 damage. Now this number is when the effect is on the Blackcliff Slasher. So when I kill 3 enemies and get full stacks, this is the damage I will be dealing. Now keep in mind that was with the artifacts on, but now let's take a look at without the artifacts. So whenever I attacked with no artifacts, I had a basic attack of 104 compared to 140. That is quite huge. And then for the crit, whenever I crit with my basic attack, it is almost the same damage here, but it seems like this one is still a little bit higher. Now going on to Beto's skill without no artifacts, I did a total damage of 2k for the Blackcliff Slasher, and I did for the prototype Aminus, I did around 3k. Taking a look at these stats all over around, most likely if I did crit with my Beto skill, then it would most likely be a higher number than the 4,000. Because if you think about it, whenever I was dealing basic attack, it was like less damage, right? But whenever I crit, I did a lot more damage. Even with this, with Beto's skill, I did a lot more less damage as a base kind of attack. But whenever I did crit, I got a higher number. So this number is most likely going to be higher or about the same. Looking at the basic attack here, it's like a 1 point difference. So let's go ahead and take a look at the pros and cons of each weapon. So for the Blackcliff Slasher on the left side, it can out damage the prototype if it crits. So let's say, for example, you're doing basic attacks, and if you don't crit, that means you are not going to be out damaging the prototype Aminus. And for the other pro, it can free up your stats. And the reason why I say this is because obviously you guys know that the base stat for the Blackcliff Slasher is crit damage. So that means whenever you are farming artifacts, you don't really need to focus crit damage that much compared to crit rate. So that means it could free up a lot of your stats. You can just focus on critical rate and in some critical damage as well. But looking on the pros for the right side here, it is easy to obtain the prototype Aminus. A lot more easier than the Blackcliff Slasher. Because if you guys didn't know, you can get the weapon prototype or the recipe to build the prototype Aminus from the weekly bosses. And if you guys didn't know, 1.1 is right around the corner. It's like really close. So another weekly boss is coming out, meaning more chances to get a prototype Aminus. The other pro about the prototype Aminus is that I feel like it is a lot more useful on more characters. And the other really good thing about the prototype Aminus is that it has a really good sword effect. It is super good. It does 240 damage in an AoE, and it is super easy to proc. So, and because it's easy to obtain, then that means that you can refine the damage even more. But let's go ahead and take a look at the cons. So, of course, the Blackcliff Slasher you can get in the shop. But because it is in the shop, it is super hard to get. So, that is why it is like, you probably shouldn't get it, not unless you're a whale. Because the only way to get those star glitter is by pulling from the gacha, and that, yeah, there's no other way to get that. currency. The other thing is that the effect on the sword, it is really good because it does buff your character, but it's good in some certain situations. For example, if you were fighting one boss, you would not get the sword effect at all because you only get that effect after you kill the mob with that sword or person. Compared to the prototype, the only bad thing that I can really find about it is that it doesn't free up stats. But at the same time, it does have a base stat of attack percentage, which is not too bad. But for example, if you want like you're going for crit rate or crit damage, artifacts is such a huge RNG and I hate it because like it is so hard to even get the artifact that you want. Not only that, but it also comes in with different RNG substats and base stats. So it is super hard to grind for the correct artifact that will suit your taste. So that is the only problem I could see with the prototype. Now, looking at these stats, I'm pretty sure you could already tell which one is much more better in the long run. Yep, is going to be the prototype Aminus. The Blackcliff slasher is good if you have a high crit rate, and it can out damage if you do crit. But the amount of resources just to get the Blackcliff slasher, it's way too expensive. It's way too expensive compared to the prototype Aminus. So anyways guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope this helped you. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them down in the comments down below and I'll try to answer every single one of them. But I hope you guys have a good morning, a good evening, and a good night. Peace!